Hey everybody, Rachel Micallef here from Empire Tax Professionals. As many of you know, I'm the CEO of Empire Tax Professionals. I'm also licensed by the IRS and I'm licensed in 50 states. I own Empire Tax Professionals and we have a full service accounting firm. And today I really want to share with a lot of business owners out there the top things and the top questions that most business owners ask us. And it's one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of business owners think that they could Google on their own and they think that they have the answers, but most of the time the answers are wrong because they do it themselves and they Google it on their own. So today I'm going to talk about is entity selection and making sure that you are the right entity and you're starting your business, the right way from the very beginning. I'm going to go over, specific entity types such as the C Corp, S Corp, single member LLCs, sole proprietorships, and other entities, and give you details as to dates and what you need to know and what you need to do to make sure that you are 100% protected. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've had over 1,000 conversations about this specific topic, and every single situation is different. So if you want to find out if what is the best entity for you, it always makes the most sense for you to speak to an expert, and we can 100% help you. Now, when people come to us, they want to know what is the best way that they could do to save money on taxes. And one of the fastest and easiest ways that most business owners can save money on taxes is choosing the right entity. We work with people, every single day, literally. I have over 30 people working for me now. And we have clients coming to us and say, hey, I'm a single member LLC or I'm a sole proprietor. And then I tell them, you wasted so much money in taxes just because you're the wrong entity. Just last week, we helped a client save, $18,000 in taxes just because we switched his entity. And the saddest part is he's been that entity for several years. I had a client during tax season who came to me. He's in his 60s and he was making $400,000 annually. He's an insurance agent and overpaid in taxes by at least, I would say, $20,000 to $30,000 every single year. Do you know how much that hurts? And he's in his 60s and he can't even retire. So that one switch, if you save money, it will help you save money in taxes, making sure, you speak to a professional, you speak to an expert, you explain your specific situation, how much money you're making, what state you're in, what your goals are, how much money do you want to make? Do you want to sell your business? Do you want to grow? Somebody really needs to understand your entire situation and then say, yes, based on your situation, it makes sense for you to be a C Corp or an S Corp or a single member LLC. The little facts, the little details make such a big difference, and something like this should never be Googled. You should never, take Google or ask Google for advice, especially, let's say, would you ask medical advice on Google? Absolutely not. You would never ask medical advice. You would go to a specialist. So you really need to make sure that you're asking the proper questions to the right people, because there's no time to waste, and we never have extra money to give, right? We want to make sure, and I want to make sure that every single day is I'm just a perfectionist, but every single day is going towards, my goals, and you're saving money as much as you can. So make sure that you are the right entity. And that's one of the fastest ways that you can put more money in your pocket so you can reinvest into, hiring or marketing or even working less. That money could go back into your personal expenses. Depends on what you want to do and what your goals are. So let's get back into entity selection. So the first entity in the very beginning, when a business owner wants to start out, they automatically, or usually by default, they're a sole proprietor. They start a business under their name. They're trying to work something out. They have this business idea and they're not really sure if they want to proceed because they don't know how much money they're going to make, right? So sole proprietors, you don't have any protection at all. Anything, if anybody decides to sue you, they go after you personally, okay? You are not protected, and you really, you overpay in taxes just by being a sole proprietor because, you're overpaying 15.3% in taxes, and it's not the best entity for legal reasons and for tax purposes, okay? You file a Schedule C at the end of the year, and you file your sole proprietor, a lot of people don't know this, with your individual tax return. Now, when you have a sole proprietor, and as all same goes with other entities, you need to make sure that you report all of your income, and then you have the details of your expenses. The IRS wants to see every single detail, such as how much you paid of your phone bill, how much you paid of your internet, what was your business rent, what was your utilities, your supplies, your marketing expenses, how much you paid VAs overseas, how much you paid VAs in the States, and you need to have those two separately because you may get audited if it's combined. Now, that would be a separate video, but that's why most business owners should never do their bookkeeping, because I've seen a lot of businesses combining the VAs overseas and the VAs in US, because they're going to say it's just a virtual assistant. What difference does it make? You have a high risk of getting audited if you combine those two. Then, the IRS wants to see how much, you go out to eat, and restaurants and dinners and travel and all of that. It all needs to be documented to the penny. You cannot estimate anything. It is illegal to estimate anything. The IRS wants backup. So when you estimate a lot of things, then the IRS says, okay, show me proof of 3 top expenses on your return. Then what happens if you don't have exact details and exact backup of those 3 expenses to the penny? Then normally what the IRS does is they start checking the entire tax return. And when you don't have details of that, then you know what they do? They go back to 3 years and say, oh, you probably estimated the past 3 years. And they may even go back to 7 years if they want to. So making sure that you have the proper entity, bookkeeping, and the specific pillars of your business is crucially important to make sure that you have a successful life. Because if you ever get audited, it's an energy drainer. It's a headache. It's a time waster. It's everything that a business owner never wants. You go back in time. You waste time, you waste money, you waste your energy. And I've known people that got audited. It took them like 6 months to recover. And you don't want that. So you want to make sure, from the very beginning, you have the entity set up properly. Then you have bookkeeping set up. Then you have your payroll set up, which is another scary thing if you do things wrong. Then you have sales tax set up. It must be properly. I've seen, and I don't want to scare you guys, but I've seen people go to jail because they didn't properly file their sales tax returns or payroll returns. We hear these stories all the time, because when you don't collect withholding from an employee, and even if you don't collect it and you don't give it to the IRS and the proper, state authorities, that's called theft. Same thing with sales tax. You go to a store or somebody actually comes to you, you sell something for $10, and in New York State, it's about 8.878%. And you collect the 81 cents and you don't give it to the state. The state believes that you're pocketing the money. So when you're pocketing the money, that means that it's theft. You need to collect the money and give it to the state every 3 months in New York State, sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly. It really depends on the state that you're in. So making sure that you have these foundations is so important, and never do it yourself. Just like you will never Google medical advice, you should never Google tax advice, because it always varies on your specific situation, such as what industry you're in, what state you're in, how much money you're going to be making. What are your goals? Do you want to stop at 100,000 or do you want to grow to 10 million? It just varies. There's so many things that go into giving a person or a business owner the proper advice, that you would never want to take the chance on Googling things on your own. So I'm sorry, I sidetracked a little bit, but it's so important to make sure that business owners understand that you never want to delegate, or do this yourself, or even delegate it to a VA. That's even scarier, because you're relying on someone and you're believing that it's done right until you get an IRS letter. And I've seen it happen. I'm not scaring people. I've seen it happen. And then the business owner is like, what happened? What did I do? Who did I rely on? It's like hiring a surgeon that's not licensed, and then, having like complexities, and then only realizing, holy crap, who did I hire? So you want to make sure that you do things the right way from the very beginning. Okay, let's go back to sole proprietor. So as I mentioned before, sole proprietor, you have no legal protection. You do pay more taxes with a sole proprietor. You file your return with the Schedule C. You make sure you have your income and expenses. Okay, now like at a business owner, at the level of a business owner, you start making a little bit more money. You're like, oh, okay, I'm making, $20,000-$30,000 a year. People are buying my services. They're interested. You may want to go into single member LLC if you want to. Now, a single member LLC, you are protected, but you again overpay in taxes by being that specific entity. Now you go into S Corp. And S Corp, you save the most money in taxes and you are protected. Most of our clients, depending on what state they're in and depending on their specific situation, most of them are S Corps, okay? C Corps, are usually not the best entity, only because you overpay in taxes when you're a C Corp. There's a flat rate of 21%, a flat tax rate. And when you want to take the money out of the company as a C Corp, you double pay taxes when you want to take the money out. So normally when you're a C Corp, you want to make sure, does it make sense? Because most attorneys like C Corps, but a lot of attorneys, and I've seen it with my own eyes, and after speaking to so many attorneys, they don't understand tax rules. They only understand legal protection. So I actually have a story. Years ago, 15 years ago, I went to an attorney and I said, okay, I want to open an entity. It makes the most sense for me to go to an attorney so they could open the entity for me. I go to an attorney and I say, hi, I want to open an entity. The attorney opened a C Corp for me. He did not sit with me. He did not tell me, these are the differences, a C Corp, S Corp, single member LLC, a multi-member LLC. He just said, okay, what kind of company name do you want? I mentioned the name. He's like, okay, here you go. Open the entity, have a good day. He didn't tell me that I needed to sign the 2553 form in order for me to be an S Corp. He didn't tell me so many things that I later learned, later. I also opened my corporation like the last week of the year, back in like years ago. And people, when they come to me and they tell me, hey, Rachel, like in December, I want to open a corporation. I always tell them, wait until the year begins. Open it next year. And they say, why? Why should I wait? And I said, listen, and I say, because if you open your corporation December 28th, 29th, 30th, or the 31st, then you need to file a tax return for that year, even if you made no money. Okay. So now you have a filing requirement for the IRS, for the state. You need to pay the New York State minimum tax or even the California minimum tax. It really depends on where, what, whatever. But he did not advise me of that. I would have waited a week to open it starting January 1st. But he just said, okay, I'll open an entity for you, put the forms in the black book, and gave it to me. Did not tell me I need to sign it. Did not tell me I needed to sign the 2553 form within 75 days of the time that I opened the company. Did not tell me that I needed to wait for an S Corp election from the IRS. Did not tell me so many things. I needed to go to the bank account and open a bank account, or tell my vendors that I needed to change, all people that needed to pay me had to be to my corporation name moving forward, not to my personal name. There's so many things that this attorney did not tell me because he's an attorney. He focuses on making sure that I'm legally protected. That's their job, right? Then I'm like, I went to my boss because I was working at a CPA firm, and I said, hey, listen, does this make sense? Is this, I was younger, I just graduated college. And he's like, no, you should be an S Corp. You should fill out this form. And it just drives me crazy that attorneys sometimes, don't work with accountants to make sure that the entity is legally protected, and they don't make sure that the client is, and they don't really go above and beyond to make sure that the client is saving the most money in taxes, because it really does start with entities. So as I mentioned, single member LLC, most attorneys like that entity because you're legally protected. C corporations, S corporations, they all like those entities, but they can't really tell you from a tax standpoint what makes the most sense. A tax expert would be able to tell you. So single member LLC mainly is like 100% owner. And then if you want to bring your husband or you want to, or your wife, let's say, or you want to bring a partner, you can expand that into a multi-member LLC with having multiple partnerships. Now, I don't always recommend it. It really depends, again, based on the specific situation. But single member LLCs sole proprietors and multi-member LLCs usually overpay in taxes. And there are legal ways for you to reduce that taxable liability by making sure you are the right entity. Now, again, it depends on the income and expenses, depends on the industry. It depends on so many things, but this is just general advice from the conversations that I've been having with thousands of clients, literally. Okay, so this is just a general rule, and I have so many horror stories to share with clients, specifically my own history with the attorney, as I mentioned earlier, and other clients. I mean, I had an Amazon seller that was a single member LLC and overpaid in taxes, and he had a bookkeeper all this time. The bookkeeper wasn't able to tell him, hey, it makes sense for you to be an entity, an S corp, or it makes sense for you to be a multi-member, whatever the entity was. You really need to make sure that you're speaking to an expert, you're asking the proper advice, and they are asking you specific questions understanding your entire situation, and only then they're giving you, they're giving you that specific advice. Don't ever ask advice on Facebook. Nobody is looking into your situation and saying, oh, you're an e-commerce seller, you're making $200,000 a year. You're selling in multiple states. You're an FBA or you're a drop shipper. Nobody's looking at that. They're just giving you advice based on high level, and nobody wants that advice. You want to make sure that they're giving you specific advice based on, what state you're in and based on different things. Now, I'm launching a coaching program where I am going to go over everything I just mentioned here. Like, I literally have chills because I've been wanting to do this for so long, but I've been focused on my business, growing it to, wherever it is now with 30 employees. It's growing so fast. And I feel like there are a lot of business owners that don't need monthly CFO services or don't need, the monthly bookkeeping that we do, because that's more high level. A lot of people that are making $15,000 on a monthly basis, they should just delegate it over to experts and rely on us to do the work. But there are a lot of business owners out there that are therapists, that are real estate agents, that are consultants, virtual assistants that are growing into like project managers, and they're growing their companies. They're making $10,000 a month approximately, or they're growing to make $5,000 to whatever it is. They're growing slowly, and they don't know, or it's really expensive for them to speak to an accountant so they could tell them what entity they should be or what bookkeeping they should start with, or making sure they're understanding their numbers. So we're going to go over that in my coaching program, and I'm going to come up with an agenda. I mean, we have an agenda already. I didn't post it yet, but we will soon. But just briefly, we're going to go over entities and helping every single person make sure that they are the right entity for their business. So you could post, because we're going to have a private Facebook group where you're going to say, hey, I'm making $20,000 a year. I'm a consultant, and we'll ask you specific questions to make sure that you are the proper entity. After that, we'll help you learn how to reconcile your own bank statements. Oh my gosh, this is huge. You're gonna know how to do your own QuickBooks, your own bookkeeping in your own in your own business, and then create specific reports such as profit and loss reports, balance sheets, so you can review what you need to look at, your gross, the details of your expenses, looking at your net, seeing how much your estimated tax payments should be, and how we calculate it. That's another thing we're going to go over. Then we're going to go over payroll and making sure that you're paying yourself a reasonable compensation. Then we're going to go over, tax returns and possibly, tax planning, seeing what you could do or what you need to do so you can lower your taxable liability or hire your children. And what does that look like? There's so many things that we're going to go over in my coaching program. I think it's going to be like either 6 to 8 weeks, depending on what you guys are looking for. So we're going to also leave it, open discussion. So for example, if somebody's saying, I need help with something very specific, we may do even a video just for them, because we want to go out there and help business owners that are growing so fast and that can't afford accountants yet, but need that support so they could get to at least $15,000 to $20,000 on a monthly basis and then hire it out. They say, I think Sam Oven said this, you shouldn't delegate something until you understand it yourself, and you shouldn't be delegating something until you know how to do it yourself. And a lot of people are scared or they don't have the time. If you are interested in knowing, what entity makes the most sense or how to reconcile your bank statements, how to reconcile your credit card statements, how to understand and how to process payroll, how to make sure payroll is, your payroll is accurate, because we have so many clients that I had a client yesterday, actually, they made $800,000 a year. And I asked them, who processes your payroll? So they gave me their payroll company. And I said, okay, both of you are partners in this S Corp, correct? They go, yeah. Who tells you how much payroll you need to be paying yourself? And they said, we just, I don't know, we just think and we just choose what makes the most sense. Like last year, we maxed out, and this guy says he pays himself $150,000 a year and all of these things. And I said, that's where you need help. Like, you don't need someone processing your payroll. What you need is someone giving you high level guidance and letting you know how much your payroll should be, so you can make the most, so you can save the most money in taxes. You could process payroll, right? I mean, that's a robotic job. And plus they did process payroll. These are very high level CEOs, and they got like a ton of IRS notices because the software did it wrong. And they're like, we don't even know what to do. We don't know where to go. We don't know. And I'm like, okay, don't worry. We're going to help you. We're signing them on. But it's just crazy, because a lot of people think, oh, I can hire this person to do this and that person to do that. And it's just really difficult. So if you are a business owner and you are looking for guidance and coaching on making sure that you have the right numbers and you're making the right decisions as far as like the entire accounting circle, like the life cycle. So again, entity selection, payroll, sales tax, corporate returns, individual returns, tax planning, estimated tax payments, all of that, we are going to go over that in our coaching program. So let me know if you have any questions. I can't wait for this coaching program to launch, because it's going to make such a major difference in the entire world. And I honestly believe that we're going to help people get away from the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, so they could save money on taxes, reinvest into things that will give them a highest ROI, which is hiring people or marketing or investing into property so they could make more money. Things like that, things that I specifically did to hit 7 figures and above. So thank you so much for everybody for watching. If you have any specific questions, let me know what your questions are. If you know anyone that's interested in knowing their numbers a little bit more, ask them to, let them know about this. And I can't wait to help the world. Thank you so much, guys. Have a beautiful day, and go crush it. Thank you. Bye.